Good morning. We call the IT meeting to order. Please take your seats and please maintain a silence so the board can do their work. Thank you. So first order of business is I need a motion to accept the minutes for March 22nd, 2022.
So moved. Second.
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 So,
Yep.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Roger, cybersecurity report, please.
So I guess the best thing we can say today is no news is good news in the cybersecurity realm. We're still very much worried about things that are going on overseas and how that's affecting us, but we're happy to report not much is going on. Karen's doing a lot of training. You should have your report out there and with you. So I guess there's not a lot to say. Our traffic is up, our problems are few, and we're going to still like to do knock on wood and hope that that continues.
Any questions for Roger? I see you have a travel request.
I do. I actually have another one that's come in since then. Karen has been invited to go to a conference. It's going to be all paid for by the organizations, the ISAC and the MSISAC conference. So I'm looking for permission for her to go to that. It's the same one she attended in Denver that year. You might recall it's been fully funded by the state. It's not only a great opportunity for her to go out and learn things, but it's also a great opportunity for her to network with lots of other folks that do this kind of thing. So I'm asking the board's permission. There won't be any cost to us. We may have to, and what I'm going to do is ask that the county purchase it, since it's reimbursable, ask the county to use the purchasing card to put it on our bill and then get the reimbursement from the organization. But other than that, there shouldn't be a cost to the county, and that will be reimbursed. So I'm looking for permission to that, and also, just so you know, she's going to be down speaking at the county finance school in, not down, over, I guess, in Syracuse. She's been invited to speak at that as well, so if you go to that, you may see her as well. Getting a pretty good name for herself around. We are still working at home. You'll see on the schedule that we're training planning boards and doing other things, so we're not just gallivanting about, but I look at any networking opportunity that she has, it can only be a positive for us in the long run.
Nice that Washington County has such a accomplished cybersecurity person and being recognized across the state and other places. So I need a motion to approve that. Moved by Cassie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim, Darrell. Got it. Okay. Any questions, Dan?
Yeah, you might have said it, Roger, but I didn't hear. Where was the conference at?
Oh, let me find the email again, Dan. I've got to look it up here. I've got it.
Yeah, just as long as no headhunters are at the conference trying to recruit her away from us.
That's right. I think you need to be, oh shoot, let me find it. I've got all the financial information and all the justifications, Dan, that I see in here, but I'm looking at where it actually is. Oh, here it is. Baltimore.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Roger?
No, nothing else.
No others?
No others.
Good. Information technology, Carrie McDowell.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Terry.
Morning, Terry.
So I guess to start off with, I'd like to go through the project report and start there and see if anybody has any questions on that at all. If there's no questions there, the ticketing report is the second report that I have up. I don't know if there's any questions on that at all.
Question on tickets? We're flying through today.
Yeah, and if there's no questions, I do have one other. And that is in the previous meeting, we've had some discussion around fitting up the committee room for, to be able to broadcast. And so we've received a quote. The total cost to fit up that room and get everything ready so that it's 100% is $6,000. Just slightly under, it's 59 and change. It's all on state contract. So I wanted to bring that to the committee today to see if that's something that you all would like to, I guess I'm not sure where to go with it.
We'll go to finance from here. So
Okay.
define broadcast, define what that's gonna do.
So it will put two very 82-inch televisions, one at each end of the room, a camera, so it'll be fit up pretty much the same way that the classroom is fit up. But you'll have, be able to see whatever's being displayed on all four walls in that room. There'll be a camera at one end. What we're proposing is initially the camera at the end where you walk in the door so that it shows the people that are sitting at the table, or we could place it at the other end. So it could be at either end of the table. A conference phone, either for audio or if you just want to have a conference only setting in there and you don't need to broadcast it on Zoom or by video. So essentially the same setup as the classroom. As a matter of fact, the equipment is pretty much the same. So that you could broadcast through Zoom. But I don't have the money in the budget, so I don't know where the best place to pull it would be. Since this was a kind of a last minute request, we could pull it out of the IT reserve if need be.
So I got a question. I have a problem with that, but I see in governance, we're gonna have a meeting room discussion about where we're gonna have the meetings. So
Yes,
if the decision is not to have it in there, would we spend the money to put that equipment in there?
that's a good question. I think in maybe moving it to GovOps and then moving it to finance if they want to go that direction is an option. I think the GovOps discussion, my understanding is to be around the room that you're sitting in today. So the Board of Supervisors chambers, and whether you'd like to move that forward or not look to move that forward in terms of fitting up that room.
Would the fit up for this room, for the supervisor chamber be different? Should we select to come in here? Or stay in here, I should say?
Interject. There are a couple different pieces, I think, and somehow they all fit together. We're going to be speaking and talking about the chambers, this room, and the upgrades that were discussed some time ago with our failing sound system and where we wanted to go with audio, video, what the interest was, excuse me, in doing those upgrades. And then I think there was a bigger discussion as well regarding Zoom and the meeting. So I think there's a lot of discussions and they're probably all connected. So if we wanted to continue your conversation about the committee room upgrade in government ops, that might probably be a better venue for that. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that we have to.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting farther all the time.
Well, I think before we decide how we're gonna equip things, we gotta figure out what room we're gonna be in first. I think that's the first part to go. So I think we will defer this discussion until government ops and when we have a meeting in the rooms. So I guess I would need a motion to move this to government ops.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Daryl. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Dana? Dan. Oh, you said Dana.
Yeah,
Dana.
Terry, when you commented about this, was there costs associated with each room individually?
Yes.
Because I didn't hear numbers. Might have mentioned it, but I didn't hear it.
Well, the only number I mentioned was for the committee room, which is the one that we used to meet in previously, pre-pandemic. And it's $6,000 to fit that room up.
So the one for this room here, the main chambers, would be a same amount or more?
We haven't discussed that yet, but it's significantly more because it includes a lot more.
And would the classroom be significantly less? I mean, not classroom, our small chambers there?
That is a lot less of a cost, yes, for the committee.
It would be less than 6,000.
That is 6,000.
Oh, I thought you said the classroom was 6,000.
The classroom is done. Classroom is all
So the
set.
classroom is done, 6,000 for the committee room and more for this one. Okay, thank you.
But not
Yeah.
all the components in this room have to do with video doesn't necessarily. Well, we'll get into that, I think.
Yeah, this is
more
a
in the
much
next
larger
meeting.
project.
Right.
Well, if we're moving to somewhere, I'd like to know the cost. It ought to be in that number, which you did, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so just for clarification, the classroom was done right at the very beginning of the pandemic, so that was all set, and we've had some really positive feedback from that setup. So that's why we chose to do a similar setup in the committee room to allow for that to be able to be used. The boardroom that you're sitting in now, we'll definitely discuss more in GovOps, but just so you know, it's a completely different type of solution. It's not just a solution for Zoom.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Any opposed? Any other business?
I don't
Okay,
have
we're
anything.
adjourned. Thanks.
Sorry. It'd be over 50. Upgrade that room too. I think we went just from being a Honda to a Cadillac discussion here. This room we got next to it. Sounds.
Yeah. Correct. Right, the whole audio.
Right.
Yeah.
That we were gonna do whether we had to sign it or not.
Right, because you still have board meetings in here, so, yeah. Somehow we gotta get that across.
Make sure I'm on.
No, you are.
That number's gonna.
I know.
They're not really related.
No,
Those two numbers.
they're not. No.
Okay, it was before.
Well, so what it was before, it was Govt do it.
We got that. Okay, we'll call to order the meeting of Government Ops. First up, we need to accept the minutes from the March 22nd meeting. Do I have a motion? Moved by John Rozell, seconded by
Second.
Tim Fisher. Any questions, amendments, changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next up, we have a presentation by the Freedom Fighting Truth Seekers. You are allowed 30 minutes and 30 minutes only. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Martine Long, and I'm representing the Freedom Fighting Truth Seekers this morning. Everyone should have had a package that was handed out this morning. Everyone's got that? Because I'll be referring to that. Before I start, I would just actually like to thank you all. We have a First Amendment right to speech and to petition, and we have been shut down so many times, and you have not done that to us. You are allowing us to speak, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I'm going to get right to the point today. We do not have confidence in the electronic voting machines, and I'm going to spend 30 minutes explaining to you why. In the package on the first page, you have a breakdown. This comes right from the state database, Board of Elections database, by county. The first column is the official count, right from the website. The second group is the vote count difference. So what was done is we loaded all of the database records and we searched them and said, how many do we actually have? So if one vote equals one voter, we should have as many records, if not more, than what the official count is. And you can see how many counties. And on the back side is Washington at 58. You can see your vote count is 28,256, but you have a little bit less than that in the state database, which means you don't have a record for those votes. The next two columns is something we have to do to get the actual vote count, and that's identifying all the duplicates or using the unique or distinct functions to go through and do that. The first set of columns is we counted the unique county IDs for Washington County, and then we counted the unique state Board of Election IDs. So every voter has these double IDs. So there is a reason sometimes to have the state ID duplicated. If you've moved, your record will be purged, and then you'll have a new one active with your voting record. Unfortunately, the purged one will also have your voting record, so when we're counting, we have to back out the purged one. And then sometimes, in that instance, you'll be issued a new county ID. And then there's some instances, and I'll show you in a second, that there's just duplicate voter records. It's the same county ID, same everything all the way along. They're just in the database twice. So those have been backed out. So for Washington County, your total is 779 records short. You're in the red. So assuming that count is correct at the Board of Elections, there's 779 people that we can't account for having voted, even though we've got to vote for them. So that's the first thing. The second package, the second document in your package is actually the duplicates. You actually had a very clean voter roll for Washington County. You only had 54 duplicate state IDs. So if you look on the first page, you see the voter that has, I'm going to keep this private, starts with the F, and the second line starts with a T. If you look across the first voter, you can see they have the same county ID and state Board of Elections ID that's on the top right. It's the same ID. That's a duplicate. So one of them has to be backed out. For some reason, that person is in there twice. The next person you'll see has a different county ID. And if you just turn over the page, you will see that those same two people, and you'll see that one is on the second record, starting with F, one is purged and moved, and one is active. But the issue is if you go right to the right-hand side where their voter record is, they're in there twice. So we have to back out those duplicates, whether they are a legitimate purged record or whether they're not. And so I've got them for you right here if you need them. One thing I'd like to show you, because the next thing we're doing, analyzing this database, is figuring out if we actually did have one vote for each voter. So now these are the voter records. We're going through the vote records right now. I'm going to take you to the second page, the back side of the second page. The first last name starts with an R, the second last name starts with a B, and I'm going right across the page to the right-hand side where it says voter history. I'm going to drop you down to the second record. You see 2018 general election P. That means they voted in the 2018 general election at the polls. Everyone following me? I'm going to jump down three records. Last name starting with H. There's a 2018-16 1106 GEP. Notice how the election code is different, but that's clearly the same election, right? I'm going to move you down all the way to the bottom.
I'm confused. I'm not following where you're at.
Second
page. Yeah, second page.
Second page on the back of the second page.
On the back of the second page. Okay, so I'm going to move you down to the third from the bottom record, starts with a P, and if you look over at their, the second from the bottom starts with an M. If you look at their voter record, you see General 218P. There's another code for the same, what looks like the same election. So what we're trying to do right now is reconcile all those codes. Did you know that there is 3,170 unique election codes? And for the 2020 election, we found 47, I think, so far. And what's happening is counties are using different code series, and the election code contains three things in it. the type of election, the date of election, and how you voted, whether you walked in absentee, affidavit, early, other, and so there's 7 different ways you can vote. So the code has 3 things in it altogether, and if for some reason you're missing a piece of information, then it's very hard to recount and recreate how many votes are in that county. So right now, I don't have a good example of you. Actually, for Washington County, I found only 19 instances where you had an unusual code being used, when we were able to look up those pretty quickly. If we were doing the 218 general election, we'd have a little harder time. But these codes right now are being reconciled so we can get an idea of whether we have 1 vote for 1 voter. Right now, we start at 1.5 million records more. And if you look at the bottom of the first chart I gave you, you will see that we have 322,381 records statewide missing. That is more than what the official count was. In New York, we don't have records. We don't have unique records for voters. And that accounts for almost 4% of the voting population. In Washington County, you're about 2.75, round up to 3% of the voters in this county do not have records at the state level. Now, I've FOILed the county, BOE, they've accepted the FOIL, and I'm just waiting for them to get that information. And when I have that processed, I can come back to you. But these are simple counting operations. Simple counting operations. Any computer should be able to count quite easily. So there's something up as to why we're missing so many records. If you look at Bronx, they're missing 50,000 records. New York County missing 68,000 records or more. There's something happening where our voter records are not being maintained. All right. And I'm not sure if you've been following some of the audits that have been happening across the U.S. Sorry, I don't mean to forget you there. But there is, the next 2 reports I have in my package, I didn't print out the whole reports because they're 130 pages, but what I did is give you the links if you want to read those reports. The links are right on top. The first one is the Mesa County Forensic Examination and Analysis Report. This was done from a physical copy of a database taken. What happened was Tina Peters, who was the county clerk, which would be the equivalent of our commissioners at our BOEs here, encountered a problem where records were missing. So they would adjudicate records one day, and the next day they would show up to work, and those records would be gone. So she called in the IT department, and the IT department said, make a backup. So she made a backup. Isn't that what you do every time you have a problem with your computer? Before you send it away, you make a backup, right? She made a backup. And so she eventually got charged for election tampering for making that backup. But what they had is the backup, and they did a forensic analysis on that backup. And so this first report is the machine. They audited the machines, and what they found is, I'm in red here on this page, there is uncertified software installed, rendering the voting system unlawful for use in elections. All election systems have to be certified to a certain standard. It has to be done, I believe, a month in advance, and it cannot be changed. What they found installed on there was SQL, which is a structured query language that lets you enter any database and make any change you can possibly want to make. They also found a number of other things where the voting system standards were violated. In fact, all these election systems work on a Microsoft basis, and the audit trails were purposely turned off at the Microsoft level so you couldn't see what they were doing. There was vulnerabilities where there was 36 wireless devices configured to their election management system. They were actually configured so any computer in the world could sign on. Well, that one's not a very hard one to think through. Why would you ever have an election management system that allows access from any computer in the world? That's like the first level security that you would put on there. They were just using generic passwords and generic IDs, and that they actually went through, this fellow that was doing the analysis said, let's see if I can hack into this. And he hacked into the workstation, and he hacked in from another PC at the BOE, and he was able to get into the elections database. He was able to change the vote counts. He did it without any sort of warning, you know how you change your record, sometimes it says, this is going to change your record, are you sure you want to do this? There's nothing like that. Not only that, there's no audit that he had actually made a change. So he said, let's see if I can do this off-site. So he went off-site and dialed in, got in, made the changes. He said, let's see if I can do this from a phone. Guess what? It worked. He was able to change the database with no audit trail that he had been in there making the changes. This whole report. And we're finding the same thing across the country, that there is vulnerabilities on these machines. Not only are they vulnerable, they're purposely vulnerable. They're at the most basic level, we keep getting told these things are not connected to the internet, but they absolutely have to be. Otherwise, when the polls close at 9 o'clock, the TV stations wouldn't be able to tell us what the total count is yet. How could they possibly do that? We know they're connected. The second report was the report from Mesa County. Tina Peters did this as part of her defense, trying to fight off the charges that she had tampered with the election by making a backup. So there's an executive summary and there's some findings, but I'm going to take you to the third page that says setup, or samples from the report. So what happens is these election management systems set up what's called adjudication files and tabulation files. And an adjudication file is just if the machine cannot read the ballot, because they have little scanners and it's all done with OCR. So if it's misaligned, it doesn't read it, it goes to adjudication, and then someone has to figure out what the voter intent is on that. So you see the adjudication file at the top was created October 1st, 2020, and the tabulation file as well, same date. And what happened was they started having problems, and so this is what she saw, and they started taking backups, and then they realized as of October 21st, I'm down at the next table, what happened was the databases were duplicated with a different timestamp. So a second set of databases had been created. No one at the BOE was aware that this was being done, and there's no way that they would ever be aware that this was being done behind the scenes. And they noticed, and this, by the way, violates certification because you're supposed to certify the databases. So for a database to just pop up, is there something wrong? And on the back side of this page, what they did is they looked at the first database, that was the October 1st version, and they listed, and I'm sorry, this is small because I was trying to fit it all on one page, but you'll see in the middle of the page it says load order for the batch off the tabulator, and you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 24. They actually had 59, and this is just one screenshot. They had 59 batches that were entered. The systems all work a little bit differently, but usually after about 100 ballots, they close off a batch and then start another batch, or at a certain time. So at the end of the day, you're going to close off the batch, right? Even if you only had 5 people come in the last 4 hours, you're going to close off the batch. And so what they did is they looked at the screenshot of the other database, the one that was they were now actually officially using, and they realized that batches 1 through 59 were missing, and now they've had a whole new series of batch records, and that's where they realized that the adjudication records that they had didn't exist anymore because they weren't seeing them because the new database no longer had them. So that's where the records disappeared. So if things are disappearing without people knowing it, and I don't think this is being done at a BOE level. I think the BOE staff at the county level put on their pants the same way I do every morning. They go to work, they try to do a good job. I think this is being done without them being aware. Okay, I'm going to show you something really quick too. This is the last package. This is from a Social Security Administration. You can go to their website. You can find this information the same way I did. It's the Help America Vote verification. It's part of the Help America Vote Act. If you have someone that does not have a driver's license, we have to help them vote. So they can give us the last 4 digits of a Social Security number, their name and birth date, and we will validate them according to Social Security records and allow them to vote. So remember, this is a very small population of your voters, right, that are going through Social Security Administration verification. So this is the records for New York for 2020, 2021, and 2022 so far. And if you look on the very first page, I want you to jump down to February 2nd, 2020. You will see that 22,651 attempts were made to register people or to verify people through Social Security Administration, of which 21,812 failed. So 96% did not match. And if you go down 2 more weeks, the same thing happens again. I've talked to a couple BOE employees who said this is not normal, this is not natural, and this is not what you would see. There's no way you'd ever have 22,000 registrations in 1 week, probably in the whole entire state of New York, because that's not how it works. Because anyone that comes in, all the new 18-year-olds come in through DMV, and they get automatically loaded. So they don't have, and they've got a driver's license, most kids. If they don't, so there's sparks here, but what we found, if you turn to the bottom of the next page, for 2020, we had almost 250,000 vote records go through Social Security Administration, which should be a very small percentage of the entire population, which this is basically the population of everyone turning 18 or more in the state. 44% did not match. And the same thing in 2021, we had a few less, but we had 54% of our verifications did not match. And in 2022 so far, we've got 88% that are a direct non-match. And when you add in the dead matches, we're at 89% of the people that are trying to be registered that are not being registered, that are not registerable because they're not identifiable. Someone should be looking into this, and I have emailed the state saying, what's going on here? Is anyone following up? Why are we trying to put people into our voter rolls that actually are not eligible to vote? And these are too high to not be addressed. I've not heard back from them, and I'm not sure if I will hear back from them. I might have to try to foil them to see if they will respond that way. Okay. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me on any of these. And these reports come out daily from all the different states that are providing audits for these systems. We really do not have confidence in these election management systems to actually count our votes. And this is some of the reason why I could talk probably for 16 hours straight going through all the reports that have come out in this country for everything. I'm just showing you snippets, but there is a lot of evidence out there that shows us that our votes are not being counted by these election management systems the way that they should be counted. In normal life, if we don't like a product that a company makes, we have a choice not to buy it. But right now we don't. You guys have the choice whether to buy it or not, and you're making that choice on our behalf, and we're asking you to reconsider that. We have some countries in Europe that started banning electronic voting systems because they realized that they could be manipulated. The ban started in Europe in 1970, 52 years ago. Right now, 93% of Europe does not allow electronic voting. They've banned it completely, saying you can manipulate things too quickly. They're not doing it anymore. France is one of the best models. They have a mail-out model works really well. If you're on the voter roll, you get mailed out a ballot. You come in one day, it's a national holiday. You come in with your ballot, your ID, and you sign, and that better match. And then there's a big glass box in the corner with a security guard, and that's where you put your ballot. It makes poll watching really easy because you can see every ballot. When the polls close, that box is open and it's counted. The evidence is not moved. It's counted at the precinct. They have results by midnight in the whole country. And they've got this down pat. It's a wonderful model. We can do that. There are a number of local examples too. New Hampshire used to do all mail-in ballots. The second they started doing automated ballots, they started receiving problems. They've been auditing. They're finding that some candidates were pre-given a certain amount of votes in the system, and that they've been able to prove through audit trails. They've also been looking at how much it would cost to process ballots. A ballot would cost, a ballot with 15 contests would cost about $1.05 or 7 cents a contest to process the ballot. So within Washington County, you're under $30,000 to hand count those ballots. And that's amazing because if you look at the price that you're paying for the automated systems, it's probably 10 times as much. Inflation is killing us. Any opportunity to save money we should be taking right now, especially if we don't have confidence in the money that we are spending. Massachusetts, right next door to us, 59 of their 351 towns still hand count their ballots. They have not automated. It didn't make sense. They didn't have the money, and they're doing fine. And so we've looked at some of the laws, Title IX, Subtitle V of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and there's a lot of regulations in there about electronic management systems and how they need to be operated. There is not a rule that says you have to use them. Any county can come out and do their own thing. Counties are also allowed, as well as the state, to start any investigation. You have the authority to investigate anything. And so, in the end, it's not these records that count, the ones that aren't matching, the ones I'm showing you today. The record that actually counts is that ballot. And we don't have confidence that it was counted because the other records show us they don't match. So we would like the opportunity to recount those ballots. We think we can do it. We can do it as an all-volunteer effort, and we want to challenge those machines to see if we, the people, can count those ballots better than those machines. And you in this room have the authority to make that happen. We will provide all the volunteers. We will get it done, and in a change of pace, the BOE workers can become the poll watchers to make sure we know what we're doing. You have 50 precincts in this county, which means you have about 560 ballots per precinct on average, which is very, very manageable. There's all sorts of best practices for doing ballot counting that we can use. But somewhere along the line, those 779 voters that are not showing up in the state database, they need you to stand up for them at this point because the Constitution says our votes should count. And they're not counting. Now, there's an outside chance that those 779 voters are on your Washington County BOE files, but they're not on the state files, and they will have a whole different set of questions at that point. I want to thank you for listening to me. That's the end of my presentation. I do really appreciate you listening to me today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Dave O'Brien.
5-minute warning.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you coming up, spending your time with us. Okay, next up we have Stephanie with the County Clerk report. Stephanie, are you with us?
Good morning, everybody. We have decided that with the everything changing a little bit, we have decided to start looking at the remote DMV sites again. Unfortunately, we have to work with the state on that, and that's been a little bit of a slow process. So I just wanted to reach out and let everybody know that we are hopefully going to be able to start this back up in June or July. We have the state DMV coming in on Wednesday the 27th to review our laptop and our printers, make sure everything's up to date, do any updates that they need. Then hopefully at that point they will give us the okay to start going to our sites and checking our sites for connection again. So I just wanted to keep everybody posted that we are going to be back doing it. We're just waiting for the final okay from the state, and we're hoping to get schedules and stuff out after the 27th once they're here and they give us the final okay.
Anybody have any questions for Stephanie? Okay, thank you for the update, Stephanie.
Have a good day.
You too. Laura
Thanks.
Chadwick, you're up, real property.
Hello, everyone. I just had a couple things I wanted to go over today. I received an email from County Administrator's Office a week or 10 days ago regarding the shared services funding that we were expecting to be receiving for our revalve grant, for our revalve 6 towns in Washington County. And I've spoke about this before. We were supposed to be at one point receiving in shared services approximately $94,000, almost $95,000. We heard after the fact that it was only going to cover 1 year, and we would only be receiving approximately $27,500. We heard the other day that we're only going to be receiving approximately $5,500 from New York State for our shared services initiative for our 6-town reval. I spoke with Melissa and I spoke with Brian regarding, the process on, what we need to do next. And the recommendation pretty much is the project balance of the $22,000 that will need to be paid by someone to cover the project. The $5,500 is going to be going out to the that's going to be reimbursed. We're not sure at this point how it's going to be reimbursed, or maybe Melissa's looking into, the county administrator's office looking into how that $5,500 is going to be distributed, if it's going to go to towns or to the county. We're working on that at this point. So right now we have a shortfall for that for $22,000.
You guys like to move to finance? How to find money or fund it?
Well,
Dave?
my question is that we were understanding that the county wouldn't be out any money. And there's other towns that did their own revals. Are they gonna get reimbursed their costs from the county? Just asking. Is this gonna be fair to tax the other taxpayers? Or something we passed by saying that it was gonna be no cost to the county?
In reality, how we get the money back out of the state. The state promoted it. They changed the rules.
They changed the rules.
Shouldn't the towns that received the benefits pay it?
Tim?
We've been through this, and Roger looked it up. The towns were only gonna be responsible for like $500. Something along that line.
So the county was gonna be responsible for none.
We went through it the last time.
Unfortunately, they changed the rules midstream a couple times now, and there's nothing.
This isn't the only program that's for shared services that was affected. There's been other programs as well. I mean, the 5 towns that bought a piece of equipment together were expecting over $5,000 per town, and now we're getting just over $2,000. But since we haven't seen it yet, they've got plenty of time to cut the money again. It's basically every program, they continue to rewrite the rules on the shared services. Correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, and
You're right.
they keep changing the rules and there's no grandfathering in, they just,
Why
Like
should
you
the other
said.
towns that didn't benefit from this have to pay that? Especially when you're doing that, paying the county, but you're penalizing the towns that didn't benefit from the program.
It's, the
They pay their own bills.
the town, right, it does affect the countywide apportionment table, equalization table as a whole by getting these 6 towns up to 100% equalization rate. I'm not saying it's large, small shift or whatever, but it could, it could affect the rest of the county. But I'm in complete agreement. There's no way they changed this program multiple times, and, when we first got into the program, we were under the understanding that the shared services, between the grant and shared services, it would cover pretty much the whole project. And now the rules have changed.
There were other towns that asked to get in this program, Hampton was one of them, and told we weren't eligible. And we went and paid it ourselves.
Right, the reval was for towns that were not at 100%, and at the time Hampton was at 100%.
No, we weren't.
I think it was the lowest 5 towns, wasn't it?
Right.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, we have to figure out how to pay the bill, but Mr. Hinkey.
Just wanted to comment that, back when we started this shared services thing, some of us pointed out that, anything that the state was mandating we get into and produce a report, I just know a little bit about it, because at one point in time, I was a county administrator here for a little while, and I had to do the shared services plan. And, I never felt that we were probably gonna get what they said we were gonna get. We're, forced into doing it, and Cassie's right, some of the towns got together and did a very nice project, which worked out well, by the way. I don't mind paying for that one, but
Right.
we aren't getting, diddly squat from the state for all our shared services thing, and I think that some of us said that's exactly what's gonna happen, and guess what? That's exactly what happened. So I don't find it surprising at all. It's too bad, but I kinda hate leaving some of the towns that in good faith went forward with this, leave them hanging out to dry with a huge bill on their part too, I guess, just for whatever it was gonna cost the town of Argyle. I guess if I could help them out a little bit. We do that as part of shared services, why we get along together as towns. Anyway, so, A, I'm not surprised, and B, I don't think it's over yet.
I have Sue Clary and then Al.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate you saying that, but it was more than good faith. We signed a contract and the town board approved it because of that contract of $500. Otherwise, my town board would have said no immediately. So it was more than good faith. It was an actual contract with the county. I'm sure the county actually had a contract with the state. And so the issue lies between the state and the county at this point. In my opinion, that's my personal opinion, and probably would be of the town board also.
Al?
So there's 2 different conversations going on here, so I want to make sure I clarify this. There's no need, we don't have to find money to pay the vendor. The entire project is funded. The expense side is funded. We don't have to find $22,000 to finish paying GAR for the project. The entire spec has been budgeted in the budget. Okay, the expense side is fine. You don't have to find any money. The conversation that you have to have, though, is when you budgeted the expense, there was an expectation of offsetting revenues. So the conversation that this board needs to have isn't about paying GAR. You have everything you need to pay GAR. Okay, the conversation this board has to have is, are you going to do something about the shortfall in revenue? If you don't, it just eats up fund balance. It will automatically chew fund balance. Okay, so there's no expense action you need to take. The conversation you have to have is the revenue side. Is it coming out of the county savings account, or is it going to be supplemented by the town? So I just want to kind of clarify, direct the conversation. We don't have a shortfall to pay the vendor. The vendor's taken care of on the expense side. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. To kind of direct the path you're going down.
Dave?
So what you're saying, Al, is we need to take no action.
take no action, the vendor will be paid and you will chew up $22,000 of fund balance. That's what will happen if you take no action.
Melissa?
Now, the $22,000 balance, what isn't figured in that is the $5,500 that's being split among the towns. So that is set up right now for that money to come from the state and be distributed to the town. So if the county is going to take that cost, I would think that the balance that, well, I shouldn't say the balance, the money that's going to the towns might want to come into the county.
But that would be the more appropriate conversation. So the revenue conversation is a conversation you need to be having, not the expense side. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that there's no shortage in paying the vendor. The vendor's fine. The conversation that you need to have is how you're funding the revenue side of the project. Because when you first set this up, you said we're going to spend $600,000 on a reval, and this is how it's going to be paid for. So this is how it's going to be paid for piece has changed. That's where the conversation needs to be. You don't have to. I don't want there to be any misconception. You need to find money to pay the vendor. The vendor piece is fine. It's about how we're paying for it, revenue side of the conversation that you have to discuss, if you choose to.
So if they send that $5,500 to the town, we would ask that the town pay the county tax.
And the $5,500 is the total amount. So that $5,500 then is split up between the towns,
Between
right?
5 towns.
So some are receiving $400, some are receiving $1,500.
Dan Shaw?
I'm not clear on this 5,500, Melissa. Is that coming to the towns from the state, or is it going to the county and the county sends it
So,
to the town?
the way I understand it, we have that option. Right now, it's set up that money will go directly to the towns. If the county takes on the expense part of it and the towns would like to not have to go back and pay the county, we can go ahead and, when we submit the application, put in there, have each town supervisor sign it, that the money comes directly to the county, if that's easier for you. We can do it either way. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it does.
Okay.
John Rizal?
Where does the signed contract step in that the towns have signed for the 500? They've already paid that.
Yep, that was for administrative needs.
Okay, it has nothing to do with the 5,500 that's going to the towns.
No.
So we still haven't decided exactly where you want the money to come from? For your bookkeeping?
But like I said, if you take no action, the books are, I mean, it's already a done thing. We've already paid the vendor.
That works for you?
So.
Tim is definitely going with that.
I think the conversation, if you want to send something to finance, would be about the redirection of the shared services money.
I guess my question is do we have to send it to finance because it has to do with it, or do we just take no action through government ops and it fixes itself for you?
I can only give you my opinion. My opinion is if you're not going to do a budget amendment, you can solve it here.
John, did you have another question?
Yes, I guess I did. When you do the reval,
Yep.
if a township is at 64, you bring them up to 100.
Correct.
That township goes to another township school.
Mm-hmm.
Their school taxes would go down, correct?
Well, the school tax rate for that community would go down. Same thing on the county level. You're looking at one big pie. Same thing with your school districts. You may have 3 or 4 different towns residing in your school district. So where another town, maybe your school rate was $17 a thousand, and the town to the north of you at 42%, maybe they were paying $34 a thousand. Their assessment, their equalization rate is going to go to 100, so they'll be down to closer to the $17. So the tax rates will shift based on the equalization rates shifting, yes. Same thing with the whole county, the whole county tax.
I guess with that one township that's brought up, would they have a little bit more money in their pot after
They may have less, but they may have more, yes. They may have a higher total assessed value going forward or total taxable value going forward. They may not. It all depends on how true the equalization rate was at whatever it was prior, 2.16 or 42 or 83 or whatever it may have been prior. How true was that rate?
I guess my line of thought, the townships that were revalued, if they profited $2,000 because of the reval, maybe that could shift to the county to help cover this, where they wouldn't really lose money, but the money.
No, your levy, you're only gonna raise what your levy is, so you're not gonna raise any more money. Yeah, it's just, you're gonna have some that are gonna go up, some that are gonna go down, and the school is only gonna need, or the town or the county is only gonna have so much money in their budget. So there's no extra money earned.
Okay, thank you.
So the consensus of the people within the committee, oh, Bob, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No, that's,
You just waved it.
I'm not just waving, I have something to say, but you can do that business first.
So I was asking if the consensus of the committee was to let it sit as Al said it could be done and if the bills would be paid. I see a yes from head shaking.
I'm a yes.
Jay, you agree with that? No. Oh, he's not on it? He's not on the committee. My apologies.
I'm not on the committee.
No, you can still make a comment, but I saw your hand go up and down like you weren't sure.
Well, I was just gonna say, as one of the towns involved, I had no problem with that 500 or whatever going right back into the county without going through the town channels. That would be fine.
Bob?
I was just wondering if, we're gonna think about putting together a resolution condemning the state for their handling of this shared services thing and demanding that they fulfill their contractual obligations.
Yep, we did 3 projects and we got killed on every one.
Yep. Badly killed, I mean, like, 60% of the projects or more.
And I think our highway guys had a good idea going forward with the money they'd anticipated to continue it on and.
I was just gonna say, we just had a conversation
Yep.
at our last town board about another shared services project that.
I think we'll go back to the way we were. We were managing to do shared services amongst the towns by ourselves without any state involvement, and we were doing a good job. And I think we don't need the state. We did much better on our own. As Bob says, that's my opinion.
But they did fail to fulfill the contractual obligations.
Repeatedly. Al?
Chairwoman, so is it going to be the resolution of this committee that at least whatever shared services money we get is directed to the county?
What did you say, Raj?
I'm not sure this committee can do that on its own.
I guess what we could do, if some of the towns wanted that to happen, just have their portion that they receive come directly to the county and not have to worry about being billed from the county. I would have to have them sign, giving us authorization to ask for that. And then those that may not wish to participate in that, maybe the treasurer could bill them for the remaining what's left, I guess.
I just have to check with Roger, so I'm not sure under what authority I could bill them.
I'd have to go back and look at the contract, but as you recall, that some of the irrational exuberance that we had going into this thing was,
You're not gonna bill the state the $94,000.
we're gonna be making money by the time we were done, if some of you recall. And the other thing, it's in the contract with every single state contract says, subject to the limits of appropriation. So, yes, in other words, you sign a contract with the state that says, we can change the rules, you can't change the rules.
Right.
So, the cost was the cost, we fixed the cost at the $500, so, but the reimbursement was supposed to be over and above the cost, so it's certainly, well within our authority. I think, again, I don't have the thing in front of me, my computer's refusing to let me take a look at it, to say to them, hey, remember, the profit is not there anymore, so since there is no profit, let's take whatever money is in there and plow it back into the expense side of the thing, so that nobody profits, but the expense was the expense. So basically, you got to reval your town. If you participate, you got a $500 reval, which is pretty heck of a good deal. Well, I understand. And yes, the resolution saying, hey, stop changing the rules in the middle of the game, we've probably, look up 15 of those, I've probably written a couple of them, to be honest with you, and one more, sure, we could do that, but, I can't say that we're surprised, because in the beginning, when there was, you know, everybody thought this was gonna be a money-making operation. As it turns out, it wasn't. Surprise, surprise. But I think it's certainly fair to go back to them and say, hey, you know what? We gave you a $500 reval, so whatever paltry amount we're getting back should go into the expense side of the ledger. But I'm not sure this committee can intercept that money, is my point.
If you can review that contract and check that
Yeah.
out, I think it's within reason. Now, it has cost the town money. We've incurred a lot of expense on our own, and we've had to hire a part-time person. So it didn't come without a cost to the town. Not support effort anyway, so.
Houston was the same way. We had to put overtime in to our deputy town clerk and our town clerk because they had to help manage the paperwork that are sent out on all those emails. I mean, so we had a cost. But on top of that, if I have the floor, what we're kind of overlooking here, all of a sudden we want everybody to be fair and even. And, you know, you have a code enforcement program here that is not mandatory. The town of Easton isn't in it, and we're spending $73,000 of Easton taxpayer money every year to support county code enforcement. And everybody says, well, that's because it helps everybody. Now all of a sudden we're doing this, it helps everybody, and we want to start singling out towns and nitpick a few dollars. I mean, that eats at my town pretty big. So I'm just saying that because we agreed to something. We got into it. Our town board agreed to it because it was going to be no cost. And in fact, there might even have been a short revenue stream to offset the adjustment of this reval. And that vanished shortly. And then you wanted the 6 towns to pay for the additional costs for the management of it, which we all gladly did. And now all of a sudden it's unfair, 22 or 27,000. And I'm paying 73,000 a year just to support your code enforcement. And you're in the same boat. You have your own code enforcement. You're way more than I am. I mean, let's be careful here where we go with this. I understand the frustration with the state. Totally agree with Bob. But just think it all out.
We're gonna wrap it up in a summary. Roger's gonna review it, see what we can actually do on the $5,000, estimated $5,000. Do you wanna bring that back to government ops since the state moves that slow anyway, or do you wanna move it to, finance, the last discussion on this? We need a deadline.
We'll have to look and see what it says. If the county has the ability in the contract to intercept it, then they'll just have to exercise their authority under the contract to intercept it.
Or can you just pass that on to the towns and we don't even need to bring it back to committee?
Well, if it says it must be passed to, again, I don't have the luxury of having anything in front of me. If it says it has to be passed to the towns, then we're gonna be groveling and asking them to give it back to us. That's a completely different thing than it's coming to us first and then we decide whether, you know, if there's a shortfall, we can keep it, so.
I mean, the default is right now that it goes directly to the town.
Right. So we're gonna be asking to get it back then.
If we'd like to, I guess. Or the
And
towns keep it.
Right, or that's a financial decision, and the towns can make their individual decisions, and then whatever the shortfall is reduced by is paid out of fund balance.
Anybody have any, Dan?
I'd like to be fair about this. I'll agree to that, and I'll let our town, we'll give up our share, but take our cost to the code enforcement out of our county taxes, which you easily can do.
Oh, we could start billing towns for all kinds of goodies. That would probably be way more exciting than most of you would wanna look at by the time we were done, including ECC costs.
Dave?
But the town has the ability to ask the county to take over the code enforcement. Their choice to keep going
well, our discussion is on the reval, so we won't fight over the code enforcement, because I get shared service
I
for
can
code
go in
enforcement that never got processed, so.
to get off in the wrong direction.
There we go.
Cassie.
Sue, go ahead.
I think this has been a learning experience for all of us. I think in the end, it certainly, this whole reval has been a struggle for every single town and every single assessor, and for Laura and her department. We're finally getting to the end of it. Hopefully the county will be better because of it and because of the revals completed. I appreciate the contracts that each of the towns signed. I think that was, you heard us and listened to that, and we've dealt with that already. This extra revenue piece, if that's something that I don't know how much it would be per town, but I know that certainly, hopefully at the end, Salem will be better because of it. You notice I said, we hope, Laura, we're getting there. But in good faith, I think that the revenue piece could, I think we could, and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the community. We could work towards it going back to the county in good faith. But that being said, it still has to go through the town board as everyone does here. But I think it hasn't been easy. It's been a tough call. Revals are tough calls, but I think everybody in the long run will be better off because we did it. And I think that's what we need to remember, is there is hopefully value for what we've done. And, let's hope that this gets done and we don't have to do it again for a while. It's not an easy process.
Daryl?
Madam Chair, thank you. Just as a process point, is there a decision point today that we have to make a decision on this issue? Or it sounds like we need to do a little more homework and then go back to some towns and have a conversation at the town board level, maybe agenda this item again for the next committee if there's no immediate need to decide today.
Mostly just on the town level right now.
Yeah, there's no decision point today.
Nope. Okay. Next item?
Next item. The second thing on my item is the Board of Assessor Review Training. That will be held tomorrow night at SUNY APC. We are holding that in conjunction with Warren County. We have sent an invitation to all the members of the Board of Assessor Review in the 6 towns that are going through the reval. So they were all invited to attend either virtual or online, or either virtual or in person. And hopefully, if you're one of the towns, your Board of Assessor Review members will be there. The first hour, GAR, will be there to review a general overview of the process that was done in updating the town records. We also, in conjunction with Warren County, they had a couple towns that did a reval. One of theirs was really worse than our 6 together. So that town, their Board of Assessor Review will also be included in that. And then afterwards, from 6 to 10 will be the normal Board of Assessor Review training. And this is being held, like I said, at SUNY ACC with no cost to Washington County. We have a gentleman that comes in and does the training. He does it at no cost to the county, and there's no cost for us to use ACC. So just wanted to let everybody know on that.
Any additional questions for Laura? Okay, thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
You're up, Matt.
All right, here. Well, after we just got done with the whole shared service conversation. We're gonna talk about a grant, permission to apply for a grant, but it's not shared services. It's local government efficiency through the Department of State, and it would be, up to $200,000 per entity for the DPW barn build that we've been discussing up in Fort Ann. For it, or we start then, I think you find out, you're awarded it by January, and I think it's that year that you would have to use it, so trying to,
time it with the build in Fort Ann that we're not 100% sure, but if we do go forward with it, we would need to start applying now. So we usually ask permission, you know, from our committee to apply for that grant to start with it. Laura does have her meeting planning agency this afternoon, so I think it can come out of either committee. She told me to bring it up here, discuss it. If you had more detailed questions about it, it'll come out of your Al. She does have, I do have some information, you know, but she would have finer details, but it is up to 200,000. The county match would be far exceeded. I mean, we're talking our budget numbers for, between 7 and 10 million, and it's a $200,000 grant, so the match would be more than enough. Resolution to move forward so she can apply in May, start applying in May.
And one of the reasons why she wanted, or it was thought that this should come to this committee is because it's just another example of wanting the full support of the board, moving forward with the whole barn project so that we're not applying for granted money, no pun intended, granted money, and then we don't go through and forward with the project. Which doesn't look good for any of us, so.
And I know the next step right now, which we're actually going to lead right into the DPW barn update, is we are out to bid for the engineering for the Fort Ann DPW barn right now. So, I think it's the 27th they're due in, and then review. So it'll be next month, meeting where we actually bring all the numbers for the engineering and we decide if we go forward with the engineering. Just like a timing issue to try to keep everything moving forward.
John, will you make the motion to?
I'll make a motion to go forward and file the grant.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Darrell. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Dan?
Yes, this is a grant you're applying for, but the shared services for this, construction, wasn't that 200,000 for the county and 200 for the town?
No, this is a misspeak, Dan. It wasn't the shared service program. It was a local government efficiency, which is very similar, but it's not the same program. The shared services, what we found out was there was never 200,000. It was a very small amount that we weren't even, you know, eligible for. We're just calling it the wrong thing. This is the local government efficiency, grant. So it was purely just worded wrong, and that was where the whole confusion, you know, stepped in.
And that's this money that we're talking about now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And that goes just to the town or to the county?
Both.
Each one when you apply for it, will get.
Every entity.
Two separate applications.
And to be clear on this, we're allowed to apply for it once. So if we get another project down the road, I believe my understanding is say if we were to go with another town, any town, the town would be able to apply for it, the county would not.
Right.
The county is a one-time deal. So even though you went in on another project, I believe that in that project, the town could apply for it. We wouldn't get it a second time.
And what's the probability of it getting this grant?
Speaking of Laura, she thinks we have everything we need. You know, we've done everything in steps, like the study we just did. For that, everything we have has led up to be able to apply for this.
Thank you.
Now, that's never 100% guaranteed, but we're aiming for.
Yeah.
This is the same program that we got money for the 911 center and the mapping and the sheriff cars and all that. Same program.
Any other questions? You wanna jump over to the sonar?
I think I'm gonna jump to the sonar first. So down at Lake Lauderdale, in our parks, every 3 years, the Lauderdale Association does a milfoil treatment, sonar program. I think 3 years ago was $2,500. The cost of it has gone up to $3,000. We pay for that out of our maintenance and repair budget for the park, and I think we have the $3,000 to do that. It's just kind of always usually every 3 years we talk about it, and if there's a bigger project or something that comes up to repair, I may need to, you know, come 1 month
on board still. Resolution to our county part of $3,000.
Motion.
Second.
Yeah. He's just discussing the expense. I don't think we actually do a resolution.
We don't.
Just want you to understand we're putting that expense in. It's usually based on the shoreline footage. That's where they come up with their numbers.
And letting us
We have a
know
lot.
anything comes up down the road, we spent this money, so you might be asking for a resolution then.
Okay, I guess as long as it's in
Good.
the minutes, I guess, you know, just, I got permission to spend it on that. I'm all right. And I guess we're gonna go back to DPW barn update, so I just updated you about the Ford and where we're at, and that's out to engineering. The Middle Falls barn update, I'd like to have an executive session to discuss the offer from the landowner that we're looking to buy, a 6-acre lot that would add on to ours to give us room to expand our building.
So can I have a motion to go into executive session for the official language?
Discussing the purchase of real property.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So I'd like to thank everybody who came to the meeting today, but we'll be moving into an executive session, so